What's up, guys? First video of 2018. Very excited to be making this. I'm in the Evo 10 right now, just cruising. It's a nice day out. Just got over the flu, so if I sound a little bit congested and kind of hard to understand, I do apologize. Today's video topic is something that I felt absolutely compelled to talk to you guys about today, which is going to be a high horsepower stock block build on really any car, but specifically the Evo 10. This video idea all spawned from a correspondence I had with a gentleman that I met at a car meet a few weeks back. So this guy came up to me and shockingly recognized me and the Evo from the channel, and he was asking me some questions about it and was telling me how he's planning to put a 3576 on his car, do a stock motor build, how my car encouraged him. That's all great, right? Awesome. Well, what sort of shook my faith a little bit was that he continued to say he's currently a stock turbo 85 build with a downpipe and everything. Cool, right? But I asked him, oh, who did you get tuned by? And he tells me that he's currently not tuned. So I was kind of like, what do you mean? How could you not be tuned? Like, your car is going to be running horribly. He's like, no, not even tuned yet. It pulls hard. Cool, man. What are your AFRs looking like? Oh, I actually don't have an AFR gauge yet. What about your boost? Don't have a boost gauge yet. All right, you know, that's not really good to hear. So I told him I would suggest you not do pulls until you get your car tuned, or at least until you get any gauges. Oh, excuse me. So I'm not here to like shit on anybody or put anybody down, but the point I'm making is, oh man, there's a cop right there. So as I was saying, the point of this video isn't to put anybody down, but I want to sort of raise awareness or talk about or talk about the not so glamorous parts of having a higher horsepower stock motor build. Now, just to throw a number out there, when I say higher horsepower, I'm going to be referring to the 550 plus wheel horsepower range, let's say on a dyno jet, right? So lots of people go into these builds thinking that the stock motor will last forever, you can beat the piss out of it, it'll never break, nothing else ever break, and you'll be fine, right? While the stock motor is very robust, and if you treat it right and have a good tuner, it's going to last you a very long time. My car is running great. I take very good care of it. I have a fantastic tuner. John Drainus over at 5150 Racing is your guy for looking to get a tune. That guy knows Evos inside and out. Could not recommend him enough. But people just go into these builds thinking that nothing's gonna ever break. You do not have to maintain your car differently. You don't have to drive your car differently. So what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is, on a stock turbo 85 build, I see lots of guys that just go ahead and just floor it from like 3,000 RPMs or whatever, right? Now, depending on what your torque level is, that's okay, but generally I would do pulls around 4,000 RPMs when I was on the stock turbo, just so that when you do that pull, it depends on where your torque curve starts. There's a lot of variables. On my car specifically, I was like peak torque at like 3,200 RPMs, I believe. So if you do a pull at like 3,000 RPMs, that torque curve is gonna like come on just like that, and that's gonna be a huge shock to the rods in your motor, and that just is not smart driving. So what I would do is start my pulls at around 4,000 RPMs and kind of roll into the throttle. That way it's not so much of a shock to your car. Currently, I'm like full boost around 4,300 RPMs, give or take, on my 8374. And I generally start my pulls at around like 5,000 RPMs and roll into it. Generally, if I were you, I would suggest that you start doing a pull roughly at 1,000 RPMs above where your peak torque is. That's just my advice. It won't make you the fastest, but it's going to help you last the longest. So that's just my suggestion. But the point is that people will just sit here and drive their cars really hard. They won't do any sort of different types of maintenance. They won't do their maintenance more frequently. They won't keep an eye on their temperatures, their fluid levels, their oil, etc. And they just sit here and just beat on it and beat on it and beat on it. They don't monitor their AFRs, don't look at the boost. They just sit here and drive it worry-free. Now that's great, but that's gonna only get you so far. You might have a freak that's gonna just last forever and won't ever give you an issue, or your car might break. Now guess what? When people like that, when their cars break, who do they blame? The tuner. Always the tuner. Which is just absolutely ridiculous. So another thing that people don't really consider, which I think is the biggest problem with having a high horsepower stock block car, is that they don't see the end result. So I went into this build sort of planning at some point to do a built motor. Hopefully it won't be for a while. My car runs great. I don't plan on doing it for a while, but that is sort of like my end game. So going into a build like this, being prepared for the worst possible scenario is generally the way to go. If you don't have enough money and this is like your only car and you just have enough money to do the build on the stock block, you probably shouldn't do it, to be honest. It's just about looking ahead, planning ahead. People also don't realize that with higher horsepower, other components of your car are going to wear out more quickly. We're talking transmission, differential, T-case, axles, brakes, you name it. There's so many different parts of the car, even suspension. I forgot about even suspension. So people just see that horsepower reading and just think, oh sweet, that's all I'm gonna go for. But you need to be thinking more about the end result and your car as a whole. People also, I'm trying to remember what my other point was. Sorry guys, I'm in a bit of a glare right now. But pretty much people just don't really seem to, just pretty much look at the car as a whole picture. I bring this up also because I noticed that now that more cars like mine are popping up that have a higher horsepower on the stock motor, which is fantastic, lots of people are now being more willing to try it. Back when I first did this setup, there were cars out there with higher horsepower stock blocks, but very few were like above the 600 range. It wasn't really too common. So pretty much guys, the whole driving point of this video is think about all of the associated costs with doing a build like this. If you take care of your car, drive it right, and have a good tuner, more than likely you're gonna be fine. But just think about it before you go ahead and dive into a build. I would hate to see more of you guys end up like the guy that I met at the meet the other day. Think about it, be smart, enjoy your car, and if you have any questions, feel free to contact me, or I'm sure if you contact 5150 Racing, they'll be more than happy to take care of you and get you all squared away. So with that guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was informative to some of you. See you all in the next one.